Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 7th special meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Matoush?
Here.
Commissioner Carolano? Acting President Bernardo?
Here. Thank you. Do we have public comments?
Is there a slip?
On the table in the binder?
Okay.
Neil Merrill's.
Yeah, I'll wait
I'll
for
just
that.
be in a second. I just wanted to say something really quick, and that is, I know you have a lot on your plate. There's a ton to do. It's very important. We just wanted to remind you of the importance, because of our storm season this year, of beach nourishment at Surface Beach. Caltrans is getting ready to do something temporary there to prevent the road from being lost in an emergency, and whatever they do there would be mitigated if there was sand there. It almost doesn't matter what they do if there's sand on the beach, because it will be covered up and won't be seen. So it is a little bit time sensitive in terms of getting something, at least to start thinking about something, and maybe working with the Coastal Commission and NOAA and all the different agencies that you have to deal with to get that started. But anyway, I just wanted to remind you of the importance of sand nourishment at Surface Beach this year.
Thank you. Okay, we have new business item number 1, reorganization of Harbor Commission, selection of officers. There is no report from Commissioner Paravano here, is there? Sorry. So,
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Brennan as president.
okay, I hear a nomination. Do I hear a second? Would you
Okay,
like
I'll
to?
second the
Okay,
nomination.
thank you. I hear a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carolano? Acting President Bernardo?
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so now we have, next would be the vice president position.
I nominate Tom Matoush as vice president.
I'll
I hear a
second.
motion, I hear a second. Are there any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carolano? Acting President Bernardo?
Aye. Congratulations. So now we have next treasurer position. Do I hear a nomination?
I nominate Scott Grindy.
Second.
Okay, I hear a nomination and I hear a second. I have a question for the attorney. Mr. Miller, can we do this? Can we have staff be nominated as board treasurer?
So the short answer to the question is yes. In your enabling legislation, there are 2, by statute, offices that must be held by board members. One is the president, and one is the secretary. So just a little reminder that that is still outstanding. But the treasurer is not statutorily required to be a board member. The treasurer reports to the secretary of the board, submits reports to the secretary of the board, and reports to the board as a whole.
Okay.
I know this district has traditionally been a member of the board with a deputy treasurer named as a staff member, but there is nothing contrary to your statutory provisions to nominate your general
Thank you.
manager as treasurer.
Thank you. Because just for me personally, it kind of concerns me because traditionally it's been held by a board member to create sort of checks and balances so that you have a treasurer who's not part of staff, with all due respect to staff, of course. So that's just my concern, but okay, thank you.
I have a couple of thoughts on that, so whenever
please.
Is that a good time? So in the board packet, we were presented with 3 alternatives for this item. And I am personally leaning toward the third option, maintain the treasurer position at the board level with the acting general manager acting as deputy treasurer. And that is because I think it's good to have a separate, a fresh pair of eyes on invoices and checks. And a board member is kind of removed from the daily operations of the harbor, and so they can provide a fresh pair of eyes to that. And I also know that Scott Grindy has been working very hard and very long days and facing huge demands during this board transition. And I don't think we should put another big task on his shoulders. And it's also that we are a 5-member board, and today we only have 4 commissioners here, so I think this would be a good thing to continue the election of the treasurer to a future meeting when Commissioner Caravano is present too.
Okay. So, thank you. So we have
couple comments when it's my
okay.
turn.
Commissioner Brennan.
So I've done some research on, whether or not it's possible to have the treasurer be a staff member. And I found that actually there are a number of other public agencies and special districts that do have the general manager as the treasurer. So it's not uncommon. Also, in the past, we haven't had a deputy treasurer at the Harbor District, although we have had a deputy secretary. That's my understanding. Is that correct? Check that with you guys. And so my thinking was that if we had a treasurer who was the general manager, he would have an opportunity to select, and this is within our what's allowed, he would have an opportunity to select a deputy treasurer who could then help him. And I'm interested in having the general manager report as treasurer to the finance committee, which I'm hoping we're going to have a finance committee. And I think that the finance committee would provide the necessary checks and balances. So that, just to give the background on my thinking about why I thought this was a good idea, a good way to go. So that's it for my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else before we go to the vote? Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Mr. Warren?
As I assume you're all aware, I'm a director of a Coastside Special District. I'm now starting my 18th year on that board. We just became a community services district. So we're now under a new enabling act, which is the Community Services District Act. And that was substantially rewritten, I think about 3 years ago. So it's the most modern of all of the enabling acts. Yours is the most ancient, second most ancient of the enabling acts. There's only one that I know of that's older, which is Irrigation District. I think that when you have a choice, it might be a good idea to look to the most modern of the enabling acts for guidance. And in the Community Services District law, there is no allowance at all for a director to be the treasurer. There's only 2 board officers, the president and the vice president under CSD law. And considering that staff at all of these districts, every last one of them, staff does all the work, it seems silly to me to have this essentially pro forma honorary title given to a director when the director doesn't do the work. And the CSD law actually explicitly says that the treasurer can be the general manager and the treasurer can appoint a deputy treasurer. So, in our case, the deputy treasurer is likely to do almost all the work anyway. But yes, I agree with Commissioner Brennan that you should have a finance committee that still does oversight on, and I really think you need to look to some of the other districts, in particular the Sewer Authority that does side for the procedures on reviewing warrants and signing checks. This is probably not the right agenda. I don't need to go into detail on that. So I urge you to appoint the general manager, in this case the acting general manager, as the treasurer. Because I think that's the only thing that really makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else before we go to the vote?
I have a question now.
Okay.
For Steve Miller, so the community service district, does that, how much are we bound by that? Or is there any concern from your end to keep the treasurer's office with the board?
You are not bound by the Community Services District Act, and I have no legal concerns with whether the board, whether the office of treasurer is filled by a board member or not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions before we go to the vote? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
No.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? Acting President Bernardo?
No. So the motion does not carry.
Can I make another motion at this point?
Yes.
Then I move to table the assignment of the treasurer to the meeting on January 21st.
Okay, I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I have a question, just a technical question for our attorney. Can we operate without a treasurer? Is that acceptable?
It's an interesting question. So your current treasurer was Commissioner Holsinger, is that right? I guess the issue would be one practical consideration as to whether that would hold up the processing of bills and claims. My memory is that at your last board meeting, when you did not know that there would be a special meeting today, you took advance action to authorize the processing of bills and claims through January 21st. So thinking through this out loud a bit, I think my answer is that no, there would not be a negative impact to the district by waiting until then.
Okay, great.
I'm seeing heads nodding from staff and seeing what they're concurring with what I just said.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay. Okay. So, no second. So, we will not have a treasurer.
Well,
There could be another, somebody can make
Some-
another
someone-
nomination.
Okay.
Frankly, you'll need to decide on who a treasurer is on January 21st. This motion having been failed, someone will need to put that on the
Well-
agenda, and I'm happy to do so under my authority as general counsel because it needs to be done.
Well, I'm going to nominate someone for treasurer. I nominate Robert Bernardo.
Okay, thank you. I hear a motion. I would like to say, though, before I ask for the second, I've had the pleasure of serving on every position on this board, from president to vice president to treasurer to secretary, and I really would like to give the new members an opportunity, especially for a learning experience, to be the treasurer, and I would not like to be treasurer at this time. So thank you, though.
Is there a second?
Okay. Are there any other motions? Okay. Well, it looks like we will table this item to the next meeting then. Okay.
I'd like to nominate Nicole David for secretary.
I'll second.
I hear a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner David,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Carvana, Acting President Bernardo.
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations. So this is the time when I pass the gavel over to the new president.
Oh, boy.
So why don't we just swap seats here so that you're in the middle?
Thank you. You don't want to forget these.
Thank
For
you.
you. Okay.
And I think this is yours, right?
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Where are the speaker slips here? Two. Okay, so we're at item 2, which is part of the consent calendar, and there's a speaker slip, so I'm going to pull that item off consent and move it to new business. And we don't have a, let's see. Yeah, can we get some staff report on item 2?
This is from the Director of Finance, Robert Galarza. The recommendation is to authorize execution of the San Mateo County pool authorization for transfer of funds to the County of San Mateo Treasurer Department Investment Division with the addition of Nicole David, Tom Mathush, and Scott Lindy, and the deletion of Peter Brunel, James Tucker, and Will Holsinger to the signature part. So the funds that we have that are in the San Mateo County pool, we need to have signatures on that account, and since we no longer have Mr. Tucker and Mr. Holsinger, and we need to add Nicole David and Tom Mathush and Scott Lindy to that list.
Okay. So, public comment. I have a speaker slip for Leonard Warren.
Good evening. I'm not sure where to start on this. I get the idea that this district has all of your funds in on deposit with the county treasurer. And a number of districts don't. Most of the coastside districts don't. The ones that did, the school district and fire district, both lost a ton of money in the Lehman Brothers fiasco. None of the districts that didn't use the county treasurer lost 1 cent because our money is in a state fund called the Local Agency Investment Fund, referred to as LAIF. And that's managed by like 20 state level department heads. It's never lost any money. It pays very little. The interest rate on it is essentially 0, but really solid in terms of principal. So you might want to find out how much this district lost in that Lehman Brothers fiasco. How much does the county charge you for administering? I don't think the county does anything for free. And I don't have the list right in front of me, but I thought I saw on a list of names for authorized signatories, the HR person, and that sounds a bit odd to me, so you might want to think carefully about all of the names on the list rather than the obvious thing of just replacing people who are gone and adding new people. Look at the whole list and analyze every single name on there and see if it makes sense.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or discussion? No? Okay, I have couple of questions for staff. What district money is in the county account?
I have a copy of the quarterly investment report. I would be able to tell you a little better. My apologies for that. Do you have a copy somewhere? We have about, we have about 6,500, 7,000 in LAIF, which is the local agency investment fund. We have some funds in U.S. Bank, and then the rest of our funds are at San Mateo County.
So would you say the majority of
The
them?
majority of our funds are there, yes.
Okay. Did we lose money with the?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did. Did we get a check back for?
We got some checks back.
We did. I kind of
can-
remember you mentioning that before.
I can give you a report the next time. We can get you a report on how much that was, how much the loss was. I want to say the loss was, don't quote me, 85, and we got about 30-something back.
So we lost about 50,000.
Yeah, I think it's about that.
Has the district ever looked at moving more money into LAIF?
Not that I know, not since I've been here, no. It's a good question. I'm sure,
Something we could look into?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
I'll give her a note and we can look into that.
Okay.
And just the reason that we do have not only the board members, but members of management is in case someone's on vacation, and usually it's emergency. I mean, I used to be backup for Peter, so if he was out and before Scott was here, that's the reason I was on it, in case, we needed for whatever reason to move funds, but there's always 2 signatures, and there has to be 2 people on the, there's a request that we have to send to the San Mateo County if we ever want to transfer funds, and that has to have 2 signatures, both a board member and a staff member. So everything is covered by 2 signatures. Nobody can do anything without.
Without a second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. Is there a motion to approve?
So I move to update the list of signatures for the San Mateo County Harbor District's accounts at the San Mateo County Treasurer's Office.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call. Thank you.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carvano? President Brennan?
Aye.
Motion
The motion passes unanimously. So, next up, we have item 3, which is terminate membership in the California Maritime Infrastructure Authority. Is there a staff report?
There is not.
So, thank you. There is some information included in the board packet in case the public's interested in looking at it. There's a resolution, which is a new resolution, and there is a past resolution when the district joined the California Maritime Infrastructure Authority included, and there's also a letter from David Hull, Executive Director with the California Maritime, it's a letter to David Hull with the California Maritime Infrastructure Authority from Peter Grinnell, so all of that's attached in the board packet. And we have a speaker slip, which is Leonard Warren.
This is real easy. I support undoing everything that Peter Grinnell was involved in.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
I do have a question. I have a question from staff on this item. I'm looking at the resolution from Resolution 04-00, and it says here, quote, administering an infrastructure fund or funds, receiving or administering federal, state, or private grants, financing port or harbor infrastructure and other purpose permitted under the Joint Powers Law of Act. So my question is this. It seems like the commissioners at the time who set this up back in 2000 did this for the purpose of receiving some sort of infrastructure funds or funding or federal, state, or private grants. Are there any funds at risk if we were to terminate our membership to this? What would be at risk? Anything? Nothing.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from any of the other board members? And I just had a couple comments. It's my understanding that the San Mateo County Harbor District has never actually used the California Maritime Infrastructure Bank and Authority. So we've never accessed any funding through membership. And there are also many other debt funding options available to the district, including NOAA's Fisheries Finance Program, U.S. Small Business Administration loan programs, California Fisheries Fund, New Resource Bank, community lending, and the list goes on. So there are a lot of funding options available to the district. Just wanted to mention that. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Needs to be done by roll call.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Everything.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. Item 4, authorize the expenditure of up to $21,500 for removal of a sunken boat at Oyster Point Marina Park. And there's a report from Scott Grindy.
As you're aware, we often get boats that are abandoned, etc. This boat was in line for going through the abandoned vessel program. And when that was, we had a storm about, I think it was a month ago here, we got a couple actually. And the vessel was in waiting for the grant funds and such for disposal. Vessel sank, and so we had to get emergency efforts to get the boat out of the water and out of the marina. And so that's what this is a process of. And just for background for our new commissioners, typically what we would do is we'd have our price, whatever it was going to cost to do that. We'd contact the board president, say we have an emergency, get approval from the board president at that point, and then if we have approval, then move forward as fast as we can to get rid of the problem in this situation.
Okay, and we have no public comments on this.
Move to approve the expense.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Item 4, scheduled date for board dynamics workshop with Brent Ives.
That's item 5.
Oh, sorry. Authorize the okay, item 5, as just stated. There is a report from Scott Grindy.
Yes, we have a recommended set of dates there that are available for Brent Ives for the workshop. And that is for the board to decide on what would be the best time to do that.
And there is a public comment from Leonard Warren.
core reasons for doing this are gone, that would be Tucker, Holzinger, and Canal, do you still need to spend the money to do this?
Okay. Is there any board discussion on this item?
Point of information, I'm not around the 4th through the 9th of February.
I was wondering if we can have, since Brent Ives here, he could just tell us a little bit about the benefit of this dynamics workshop? Just,
You want to wait till after?
Nicole?
you
Okay,
want my
and you
dates?
had something?
Yeah, I just had after you're finished speaking, sorry.
Oh, yeah, the only date I'm not available is the 20th of January. I'm available all other days, but I would still like to, since he's here, give us a little bit of,
If I might suggest that it might be appropriate to agendize that for another meeting, if you're gonna have a broader discussion as to the continuation of the program or the merits of the program, what's agendized is just a sort of a scheduling exercise.
okay?
Okay, so the dates that, I'm sorry, Robert?
Regarding dates, I'm not available the 20th through 29th of January. That's my birthday week, and I will pretty much be unavailable.
Of January, okay. So we have Commissioner David unavailable on the 20th. And that works for you too, because of your schedule. And what was your schedule again, Commissioner Matoush?
Second, or the February 4th through the 9th. So it looks like the only two available days that are left to discuss would be the 19th and the 11th.
Okay.
Is that commensurate with Commissioner Bernardo? Did you say the 20th through the 29th?
Yeah, those aren't good dates for me. I can do the 11th.
Yes, the 19th and the 11th, I believe we're down to.
So, and you prefer the 11th over the 19th? It is,
Yeah, just
it
because
is
it's a
holiday.
holiday,
Yeah, it's Martin Luther King Day that day, so I'd rather not. So let's schedule it for the 11th of February.
Well, I guess if you want to take a vote, that's okay too, but if everyone's agreed on.
Are we,
that's okay.
do we need to vote, or
I
how do you
think
guys feel?
we should procedurally have a motion in a second.
Okay.
On the
Okay,
date.
I'll move to have the board dynamics workshop conducted on February 11th of 2015.
I second that.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo,
Aye.
Commissioner David,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Carvano, President Brennan.
Aye. So we're now on item 6, discussion and possible action forming committees, ad hoc and standing committees. And we have a public comment from Leonard Warren.
I'm not seeing it in the electronic copy of the packet that I downloaded right before I came here, but I seem to recall seeing another on this item that listed the 3 standing committees and had an asterisk on 2 of them saying that they have to be notice public meetings with, whatever the 72-hour notice. And it didn't say that for Finance Committee, and that's just wrong. Finance Committee is a standing committee, and the Brown Act says all standing committees have to have notice of public meetings. So if that's somewhere in the electronic one, I'm not seeing it, you need to factor that in, that all standing committees have to have notice of public meetings. Thank you.
Could we address that with just a Scribner's note update?
If you're looking at me, so I assume you're asking me, I'm not aware of what is the correction that's being needed. I don't think anybody's created, I'm not sure there is anything that needs correction.
It's our additional documents brochure.
I see. So this looks like something from last year. If you're planning on, if the president is planning on setting new
Okay. It's my understanding that standing committees are generally noticed. Is that required or?
It is required.
Okay, so the standing committees will be noticed. And there's a list attached in the board packet, item 6, which gives a rundown on 7 committees. 3 are ad hoc. There's Executive Search Committee, Strategic Planning Committee, Admin Office Committee, and then there's 4 standing committees: Finance Committee, Beach Replenishment Committee, Water Quality and Public Safety Committee, Communications and Marketing Committee. I have some that's the old, that's the old one. So there should be, are you missing that page? Oh, you've got it, okay. So it's my understanding that the board president gets to decide on the committees and also decide who's in the committees. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I think, I can't really speak to what the tradition is here because I haven't been here when this was done last year, but traditionally it's done with the informal participation and consent of your colleagues, but you are right that that's your prerogative.
Okay, so I guess I'd like to get some discussion going here, feedback on what committees you guys would like to serve on. If you have anything particular in mind.
Yeah, I think in general this is a great idea. I'm glad the Harbor District is taking this up again because I think it really encourages public participation, and you know, a lot of people might not want to come to the meetings and speak in front of the running camera, and they would still like to participate and bring their ideas to the board. So that's a great opportunity to work with committees and public participation. And I personally would like to work with the Beach Replenishment Committee and Water Quality and Public Safety Committee.
Beach replenishment, water quality.
And public safety, that's all.
Okay, so that's two
Yeah.
committees. Okay, and anyone else?
I would like to be involved in strategic planning and communications and marketing.
Okay. And Commissioner Matoush?
Administrative office, finance, strategic planning.
Okay. And obviously, we're missing a commissioner tonight. So I'm going to make some suggestions of some committees I think he should be on, and if he has issue with that later, we could bring this back and revise it. So should I just give a rundown on each committee?
Just you say what you want.
Okay. So no one here mentioned the executive search, right? Okay. So Executive Search Committee, Tom Matoush, Nicole David. Strategic Planning Committee, Tom Matoush, Robert Bernardo. Admin Office Committee, Tom Matoush, Sabrina Brennan. And moving on to standing committees, which of course have to be publicly noticed. Finance Committee, Tom Matoush, Sabrina Brennan. Beach Replenishment Committee, Nicole David, Pietro Paravano. Water Quality and Public Safety Committee, Nicole David, Tom Matoush. And Communications and Marketing Committee, Robert Bernardo, Sabrina Brennan. And like I said, we could reconfigure that depending on what Commissioner Paravano wants to do when he's back. So do we need to make a motion? Nope, that's done? Okay.
I have a quick question. How do these committees get started or scheduled? How does that work?
So there are a number, I'm sorry, you asking me?
Yeah, or whoever wants to.
I don't know that it is strictly, I don't know that it's an entirely a strictly legal question, but I think your district policy is that with regard to the advisory committee, the members of the committee mutually agree to hold a meeting when and where they want. It's not an event for the purposes of the Brown Act. With regards to standing committees, which, as I understand it, is a relatively new item for this district, traditionally, there is set a schedule for standing committees. The Finance Committee meets the first Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. and I don't know that there's a legal requirement as to how that gets done. I imagine there'd be circumstances the board president could set a schedule, or the members of the committee could set a schedule. But traditionally, standing committees meet with some regularity and predictability.
And I was thinking that now that we know who's on what committee and we know who our committee mates are, we could communicate with them directly and figure out how we want to proceed, and then schedule meetings and things like that later. So I didn't think we needed to get into that level of detail tonight.
I would suggest that standing committees have a fixed meeting schedule.
Do we need to decide that right now?
No.
Okay, all right. So moving on to item 7, discussion and possible action, consideration, approval, and/or direction to staff on the process of hiring an executive search firm consultant to conduct a formal search for general manager. Report, HR memo.
I didn't do a memo, so that didn't get changed.
Oh, okay, so, sorry. Scott Grindy,
Oh.
you have a memo.
Yeah, the proposed action is we have, under number one there is we have a professional services agreement, from Brent Ives in the amount of $37,900 for the search. Number 2 is that the Harbor Commissioner, or the Harbor Commission authorized the acting general manager to do a RFP to select a firm to do that through a RFP program for recruitment.
Okay, and I have a question for council. Since we have the consultant here who has presented the district with a proposal, could we hear from him?
Sure, I have no objection to that. If you have specific questions for him, or if you want him to make a statement, that's fine by me.
Okay, so Brent Ives?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome new board members and congratulations on your new board. I was asked to provide a proposal regarding the search for your new general manager. As you know, because of the board dynamics preparation that I've been doing and meeting with you, meeting with the former board, meeting with you, new board members, and attending a number of your board meetings to try to assess board dynamics, which are different now than they were before. I've come to know your district relatively well, and so in doing so, with the number of things that have occurred since I began looking at your board dynamics, I became very well acquainted, and I think it has a significant effect over one of the most important decisions you're going to be making as board members, and that's your next general manager. It's a hugely important decision for you. And yet it's in the face of what I would call reasonably difficult recruiting situation. And that's why, in my opinion, there are a number of ways to approach your recruitment, especially now that I believe you have a subcommittee on recruiting, and that can help. That could lower that cost, that negotiated cost. But there are still some significant things. There's certainly, in your case, a strong need to involve the public in determining a candidate profile for you, so that whoever is out searching for your general manager isn't just taking the standard route. This is going to be under what I would call reasonably significant public scrutiny. There's a lot of circumstances in the past that are going to lead to the decision in the future, and so that public process is going to be very important. The other thing that's important to your particular search at this time is preparing you, a new board, for not only determining what's going to be important in establishing a candidate pool, but what's going to be important when you get to the selection methodologies. What kind of processes are you going to want to go through? How much are you going to or not going to want to involve the public? How does that work? All those things take time, and time in every one of these cases is money. I have to say that everyone knows that the reputation of the district isn't terribly strong right now. It's going to be difficult. It takes time to get candidates, to a qualified candidate pool together. That's factored in. I think that this is certainly the higher end with us doing everything. There are other methodologies that could be negotiated that would include, for instance, your staff doing, trying to take some of that burden from staff in terms of generating ads, the marketing program. Yet they're going to have to be involved at some level anyway. The subcommittee now can take on a certain amount of these tasks, which again lowers the cost. That being said, I'm not completely sure how, but I've already gotten 3 calls from candidates about your position. I guess if somebody reads the notifications that go out, they could pick up on the fact that at least I've got a proposal in front of you. I'm pretty well known in the special district world, as you all know, and I've already gotten 3 calls. Now, whether or not they fit your criteria, certainly not yet, and I've certainly put everyone on hold and said, let's wait till the new board works through this process. While I do have a proposal before you, I want to let you know that my goal is to assist you in any way that I can, up to and including this full-blown search effort that includes a broad public process, and it takes time to work through the specifics of finding just the right general manager. Again, I can't stress how important that is to you in terms of the health and welfare of this district into the future. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Do we?
That's what I've got for you this evening.
Do you guys have any questions? No?
I don't have any questions for
Okay,
Mr. Ives.
I've got a couple questions. So I noticed, I was reading through your proposal, and I noticed that it included things like communications with other agencies that are interested in the welfare of the Harbor District, such as the Board of Supervisors, really kind of bringing everybody together around finding the right choice and moving the district in a positive direction. Could you talk a little bit about some of the things that you could offer that maybe we might not find with the standard search?
The reason I see that as important is indeed customizing your situation. And I think right now, in this particular time, over the next few months, it's going to be important to demonstrate your willingness to integrate them and listen to all of the stakeholders around public, other agencies, other decision makers. There's a lot of, there's a spotlight to some degree on you all right now, and you all want to show that you're interested in everyone's perspective in this very huge decision. That was part of my thinking regarding that, in terms of trying to make sure that they understood that you're trying to do this as well as everything else as right as you possibly can. And so it takes time to integrate.
And then you talked about just kind of an estimated timeline of 4 to 6 months was sort of a guesstimate. Are you feeling like that's probably fairly, I know it's hard to pin down, I'm sure.
Part of that is how quickly the qualified candidate pool gets populated. If we get to the point in 3.5, 4 months, if we get great response from an ad campaign and direct target marketing. And I feel like you've got enough candidates that you could find 4 or 5 that any one of them could really compete well, then that would be the shorter term. That being said, it's likely that it will take a certain degree of target marketing and convincing of people that this is the right move for them at the time in their career. So it could go, the other situation would be we don't find a qualified candidate pool in 4 or 5 months and we have to continue at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not an additional cost, that's built in. My proposal would be to present you with a qualified candidate pool and then help you through the process of selection.
Could you also help the board better define the responsibilities of the general manager and then also help a prospective candidate really grasp what would be, what the task is and what they would have to bring to the table to be able to fulfill the needs of the district? I mean, would there be enough communication there to really work through that?
It's hugely important that the board understand what kind of a person they're looking for, what are the strengths, what are the skills, knowledge, ability, experiences, and character and style that they are, and defining all that up front before we go out and try to establish, try to find and sort for qualified candidates. Everyone in the room has some perspective on that. In terms of the experience in the past, or someone they just know that it's a good general manager that they would think would be the same kind of person that would work here. So gaining that broad perspective and then helping the board through that candidate profile is a significant part of this.
And I noticed in the proposal, you're reminding me, there was a mention of some degree of outreach with the community, and obviously the fishing community would be very affected by any decision the board might make. So there would be a process for gaining some input about needs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would work with the committee to make sure that we have a well-run program of getting the right kind of input. All that, but however, is in serial fashion leading to the time when we actually go to market so that we get the job.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any more questions?
I just think time is of the essence, particularly with regard to the grand jury findings and the different groups that wish to weigh in on this. The faster we can make a decision, the better. We've seen in our history when parks would like to take this over just for the income that they get off some of the lease income. That would strip us of a lot of benefits and rebuilding our infrastructure. So the sooner we can get underway and make a decision, I think the stronger we would appear in the eyes of the public.
I agree.
All right.
I just have I have a comment. It's not a question for Mr. Ives. So while I completely support the idea of hiring an executive search firm, because we do this regularly in my day job, I work for a public agency, we use international search firms regularly. And with all due respect to Mr. Ives, for whom I have tremendous respect, I don't think we should do this right now. And that's just my personal opinion because of timing. It's my understanding that LAFCO has just commissioned a study to examine the district, the Harbor District, and they will be issuing a report by mid-year. Then it'll go to the County Board of Supervisors. So with all of this happening, I mean, back to the point that Mr. Ives said about someone, who would want to, I mean, what type of candidates are you going to get in the candidate pool? I would question the motivation of anyone applying for general manager. Plus, if it's later decided that the district were to, heaven forbid, dissolve, we've just wasted the public's money for doing a search for which, it was a moot point. So I would like to wait for a decision by LAFCO. I completely support executive search firms. I think it's a great way to go because it's transparent, brings in the community. Typically, from my experience, the way it happens is, you have several rounds of interviews. In my public agency job, I went through 3 myself. I had an exterior panel, an internal panel, and then a final panel. So it's a very rigorous process, but I just don't think we should do it now. So for me, it's the timing. I support it, but just not now, until we know more from the LAFCO and the County Board of Supervisors, and that's why I'm going to be voting no on it.
I have a comment
Thank you.
too.
Okay.
I agree with Commissioner Matoush that the timing is really important here, and I think, especially with the investigations that have been conducted into the Harbor District, I think it's important that we put our best effort forward to try to, keep the district from being dissolved, and I think that's why it's really important that we put a lot of effort into trying to find the best person for this job as general manager and bringing stability and some continuity back to the district. And I really like the proposal. I think it emphasizes on seeking input from stakeholders and for required, qualifications that are needed. And it also provides a lot of preparation and guidance for interviews and decision makings for the board. So I am in favor of this proposal.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the search firm proposal.
A second?
Second.
Roll call?
So just if I could clarify, this is a motion to approve amending the existing contract with Brent Ives Consulting to add this search firm component to the scope of work? Is that
Correct.
Commissioner Bernardo?
No.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Matoush?
Yes.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. Motion passes 3-1. Thank you. Item 8. We've got discuss and possible action, strategic business plan, goal status, and viability of contract with Lisa Wise Consulting. And Scott, you have a memo attached? I'm asking. It looks like you do.
There was a recommendation, yeah. Sorry. At this time, the board needs to determine one of the 3 actions to be determined. Number 1 is to continue with present actions performance of the firm of Lisa Weiss Consulting Firm with an update to the status of the project as a presentation to the January 21st, 2015 board meeting. The second option is to propose a stop/suspend work to the project for up to 6 months while the search for a new general manager position occurs and while the board members familiarize themselves with the project. The third is if a stop/suspend work is not acceptable option, then to have the acting general manager provide immediate time required notice of 10 days to the project consultant firm and discontinue the project.
We have a speaker slip for item 8, Leonard Warren.
I think given the no pun intended sea change in the district with new commissioners, and therefore a new board majority, a new general manager on the horizon, it just feels wrong to continue with that process at this time. And I'd also like to point out that Ontario Water and Sanitary District is doing something similar for 1/10 the cost of what the Harbor District is spending on theirs. So that also seems wrong to me. So I really urge you to suspend the work on this for some significant amount of time until the new commissioners feel solid in their positions, and maybe even until you have selected a new general manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Does the board have any comments or questions?
Commissioner Brennan, if I could just jump in with just a procedural comment, which is while when you get a staff report, it's perfectly fine to ask questions of the staff. It would be, from a parliamentary perspective, more appropriate to have a motion and a second and then a discussion on that motion rather than precede the motion with the discussion itself, so that the discussion is on a particular motion.
Well, I don't want to do it that way. I would like to have discussion first and then have a motion and then have a focused discussion specifically on the motion. I feel that that would hamper the board's ability to have a full and robust discussion. But I understand why you,
It's just one of Robert's rules. It's just, it's not it's not an opinion. I'm just informing you that that's what Robert's rules
Okay.
requires from a parliamentary
well, that's
procedure.
not how we're going to do it. Thank you. Okay, so does anyone have any discussion?
I have a question, comment. Thank you. First of all, just with regards to the strategic planning process, you know, we've had 4 community meetings and 2 on the coast side, 2 at Oyster Point, and the one at least at Oyster Point was very well attended, which included several members of the South San Francisco City Council. So the process is nearly complete, and I believe that this strategic planning process was the first one we've had since I can remember. Can't even remember if the Harbor District has ever launched a very comprehensive strategic plan like this. I know that in the past there have been people who have accused the Harbor District of sort of planning in a Frankenstein approach, you know, and not having a really well thought out strategic business plan, which is what this plan does. So I would like to see this continue myself. And my question is, didn't we sign a contract with Lisa Wise? Don't we have to Mr. Miller, don't we have a contractual obligation to Lisa Wise or no?
You do have a contract. The district does have a contract with Lisa Wise.
Okay.
It includes a termination provision.
Okay.
Could you explain the termination provision just to clarify for the board?
I believe there is a 10-day notice provision, and that the district can terminate the contract for convenience. But I'm just looking at it now, that doesn't mean that you don't necessarily continue to pay the contractor for the work it's done up to the date of the termination, as well as additional expenses incurred. And there may be a termination claim for expenses necessary to process the termination. It's pretty standard practice that that's what happens.
Thank you. And I have a question actually from the consultants. Thank you. Thank you. So can I ask you a question? Sure. Okay. Can you please tell me where are we in this process? Aren't we almost complete?
Thank you. Good evening, board. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Yes, there's 109. The total contract amount was $274,515, and we have submitted the background existing conditions reports to the board. They're part of the board packet. Conducted the 4 meetings and put together an advisory committee, and we have $119,405.90 left to take us through the process to bring the existing documents to a public review draft position, and then go into develop the final report.
And where are we at? How much have we spent to date? The total amount?
57%, $112,902.75.
112,000. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know that we have a contractual obligation, but this is also kind of an unusual situation that the board is now facing with a change on the board and a change in focus and priorities of the board. So I'm wondering how much room we have to deal with this situation, and maybe ask you to help us out here, because we are currently without a permanent general manager, and we have new board members, and we might, you know, our focus of, for example, just the environmental part of the study might change, because we maybe want to add some more to that study with more focus on water quality or more data collection, because so far Tenera, I think, has a relatively small part of the project, and basically included the species composition in the harbors and not much water quality. So maybe we want to come back and reevaluate and refocus for the last part of the study, and if that would be an option, that would be my preferred option, and that we would have some time because of the, you know, kind of unusual situation that we're faced with right now, to take up the work later again and just have some time to reevaluate.
I guess the way I look at it, there's a new board here to provide new direction, and this board would not concur with the prior board. The general manager is in a different position. When I look at what's taken place so far, I was a little dismayed to see the amount that Tenera was charging for as little as they've done, just gathering up work that other people have done and re-summarizing it. That's how my opinion of what I'm reading so far. So I guess my recommendation would be at least to suspend this, and then for you folks to come back and find out what direction the current board is interested in and how the new board can proceed, and see if you can still fulfill the goals of the acting manager and the current board.
We have 2 speaker slips, which I should have called earlier, but I only got one just now, and I forgot Leonard Warren, who speaks at every opportunity. So I'm going to call Leonard Warren first.
Yeah, I was losing track of the meeting, but for some reason I thought I already said that.
Did you speak on this? Maybe you did. Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Well, we got in one more, and I want to make sure we give Lisa Damrosch an opportunity to address us.
Hi, and welcome to the board here. My name is Lisa Damrosch. I'm the Executive Director of the Half Moon Bay Seafood Marketing Association and the Half Moon Bay Groundfish Marketing Association. And I just wanted to throw out there that as part of this overall large strategic planning project is a community sustainability plan document, which leads into a lot of the other pieces that are not within my scope of expertise, but the commercial fishing industry does have a use for and a need for this community sustainability plan. I have been working on the early drafts, making sure that the documents, there's been multiple interviews. I think they interviewed something like 40 fishermen, which was great. There's a lot of support from commercial fishing for getting our industry to be recognized for what we have achieved and what we are achieving, and also for some plans to be laid forward and some opportunities to be presented. So I would just ask, as we're looking at, and I totally get it, as we're looking at what we're going to table and what we're going to keep going, if that document is relatively close to finished, and it would be great if it didn't get sort of scuttled to the side with the bigger picture questions that you guys have to answer. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. I have a couple comments, but do you guys have any more before we? Okay. So I had an opportunity today to look at some of the draft deliverables that we only got as a board today for the very first time. So it was a lot to process. So I haven't fully read everything yet, but I did skim it, and I did look at the document that that Lisa was just mentioning, and it looked very interesting and looked like something that I'm gonna enjoy reading in more detail. And I understand it's useful, and I understand that the fishing community would like to use it sooner than later. So that raises a question for me, which is there a way that we could complete that piece and put the rest on hold? Because I do feel that it's urgent that the new board have an opportunity to, and I want to have an opportunity to read through these drafts, get oriented, think about what the new goals of the district are and how we might want to retool things potentially, and then come back with a general manager and give that general manager an opportunity to get up to speed with what's happened to date, and then take another look at it. So maybe Henry, do you want to address what I just said at all, or do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Okay.
answer questions. Again, thank you for the opportunity to respond. I'll address the first issue, or the community sustainability plan issue first. The fishing community, the community sustainability plan, as a report that was focused on the commercial fishing industry, was prioritized from the start. We have put a significant amount of effort into that document. It's actually in the professional publishing software. It's gone through several rounds of revisions, and there's still $9,800 left on that task. We feel like we've shaken hands with the community. We've shaken hands with the commercial fishing industry to finish this document. This is a document that's required by the Magnuson-Stevens Act by communities that are engaged in limited access privilege protocol fishing, which is the groundfish industry. So I think we're in a really good position now to get this document finished, get it presented to the Board of Harbor Commissioners, maybe to the county, take it to the Pacific Fishery Management Council, and let them know that this community is able to identify priorities, generate funding, and take the project from start to finish. That was the goal of this project, and we're in a really good spot to do that right now. Regarding the rest of the project, we feel we have a great team on this. Once you've been given the opportunity to review what we've produced, we're ready and willing to keep moving on the project. We're also ready and willing to accept what decision the board has on moving forward.
So if the board decided to hold off for the new general manager to get sorted, but move forward with completing this, so that would you be able to provide the general manager with a letter or something stating what would be needed to complete that portion, so it would be clear to the board where we're at with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. So, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I propose a suspend work to the project for up to 6 months while the search for a general manager position occurs, and while new board members familiarize themselves with the project, with a friendly amendment to complete reports that will be prioritized by the board within the next 2 weeks.
Is that, I'm asking Stephen Miller, is that doable? Can we leave it that open, or do we need to get more specific?
I'm not sure that's a question for me. I mean, practically, I'm not sure what would happen in the next 2 weeks, but that's certainly a perfectly legal motion. You have just a thought, which is that you just created an advisory committee on strategic planning. You could direct that committee to work with the general manager to discuss with the consulting firm amendment to reshape the scope of their services for the next 6 months. So that might be one way to do what I think I understand you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how this motion needs to get rephrased or amended. I have a question about the motion. Does anyone else have a question about the motion? Okay. Well, first I want to say that I agree that the purpose of having a strategic planning committee is to do exactly what you just mentioned, which is take a look at where we're at today and figure out if there's some adjustments that need to be made. And I do like Commissioner David's motion in adding that we will allow for portion to move forward to completion. I think I would be more comfortable making it more specific to the, what's the name of that?
Community Sustainability Plan, CSP.
I'd like to amend it and make it more specific to the CSP, just so we know exactly what we're talking about. And then the other part of the motion that I would like to change or amend is propose to stop/suspend work to the project for 6 months or until the general manager position is filled, and while the new board members familiarize themselves with the project. How would you, this is a question for Stephen Miller, how would you add to that the portion to allow for the CSP to continue?
Well, again, it seems to me that what you're really proposing is a reshaping of the scope of work that is in the contract. And so this will ultimately need to be reflected in a contract amendment.
So that's,
And therefore, just for working backwards from that amendment, if I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no, go.
Working backwards from that amendment, what you're really doing is giving direction to someone. It could be to your committee, it could be to your general manager, to negotiate a revision to the scope of work with the understanding that that will include the 2 items you just mentioned, which is 1, completion of the CSP, and 2, hold on all other work. And then perhaps that proposed amendment, you could either ask that it be brought back to you to approve, or you could tonight authorize your general manager to enter into such an amendment, provided that those 2 conditions were met. How's that? Does that satisfy what you're looking for?
Yeah. Commissioner David, do you want to amend your, tell me the process, because this, when it gets
so you have a
into,
motion on the table, you have no second.
okay.
Well, we're
a
still
little bit-
working on the wording of the
So
motion.
you could withdraw that motion and then propose a new motion, or,
Yeah, let me restate. I move to propose a stop/suspend work to the project for at least 6 months or until a new general manager or permanent general manager is hired, and while new board members familiarize themselves with the project, with the amendment to complete the CSP and finalize it or publish it.
And authorize him to renegotiate.
Right, and authorize the acting general manager to write a contract amendment.
At the risk of sounding like this could be a go-on forever motion, that does not include the consulting with the new strategic planning committee. So what allowances do we have to give and provide direction, police-wise consulting through the strategic planning committee?
I have a question, could that be included in the general manager's communication or amendment to the planner?
Sure, or you could, just when you're authorizing the general manager to negotiate a contract amendment, instruct him to do so in consultation with the strategic planning committee.
Okay. Are you,
I guess the one thing, I'm listening to Mr. Warren discuss a sewer district or sanitary district doing something for 1/10 the amount of work, and if we renegotiate a contract through the general manager, it sounds like we're leaving ourselves wide open for additional expense. And that's a concern.
So my question is to the general manager, how quickly are you going to be able to work this out with the consultant?
You know, I think Henry and I will just have to get together immediately tomorrow to at least establish some boundaries and where we're at for this week. So hopefully we can bring back something to the board on the 21st.
Does that meet your concerns?
It doesn't give the strategic planning committee time to get together and express
No, I'm just saying
concern and
this isn't
direction.
a cost, but, you know, with the committee itself, next, you know, at least get some boundaries so at least we know what we're at, and then get together with the committee.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah, we gotta figure out a date here and that other stuff.
Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second? Should we restate the motion?
You want Deputy Secretary to state?
Yes, why don't you restate the
So
motion?
the motion I have is to propose a stop suspend work to the project for up to 6 months or until the search for a permanent general manager position occurs, and while the new board members familiarize themselves with the project, and to amend, with an amendment to complete the community sustainability plan and authorize the general manager to amend the contract.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
No.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carvana? President Brennan?
Aye. Motion carries. 3-1. Thank you. This is hard. Item 9. Discussion and possible action, district administrative office lease amendment and possible future location of district administrative offices.
Yes, as it's been discussed in the past year or two here over different meetings, the present district office in South San Francisco, we have to give notice if we wish to relocate ourselves out of that office by February 1 to avoid having to rent for another year. And then we would, if we gave notice on February 1, we have to be out by the end of May. So bringing this to the board is to, one, inform the board that this is the way our lease works. And if the board wishes to need direction, basically to work with a real estate agent to bring back what commercial rental options are at the next meeting for possible decision. And then possibly discussion before we go out and negotiate a final. And we may have to even have a special meeting at that point. What the authority is and what the boundaries the board gives me. The other options, we have option A, if I just read through this, no action, leave the administrative offices at its current location for this year. Option B, authorize the acting general manager to work with a real estate agent to bring back to the board on the 21st of January commercial rental options with costs and a recommendation of where to move the district offices in time to provide a February 1 notice of termination to the landlord. Option C, authorize the acting general manager to start making arrangements for a move in time to provide termination to the landlord in 2016. And then the last option of D is review other possible administrative office locations within the Harbor or Princeton by the Sea and El Granada area.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So with the 4 options that you just read to us, isn't option D part of option B and C also?
Not really, you know, right now what we're looking at is, option D is basically, we'd have to find something and be prepared to move. Option C is to start looking this year. Obviously, you have some transition going on. You have a new general manager coming on. You may have, it gives you breathing time with a new board to be able, just like in other discussions here, to maybe look at what facilities we have that we own presently on the coast side. Maybe there's more room for a, I'm sorry if I speak out of turn here, but just basically we could remodel some spaces, we could modify spaces, and do it to something we already own. Might be a different option on the table. And unfortunately, because of the short fuse of this February 1 requirement, there's not a lot of time for discussion or direction, other than to say either we go out and rent or we don't.
Well, I have one
Yeah.
more question.
Oh, yeah.
Because my personal preference would be if the district could actually buy a building so that we don't have to pay rent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if it would be an option that we give notice on February 1st, 2015, and then come the end of May, we go to a month-to-month
I
rent.
can look into that and see if we can do that.
Because that would buy us a little bit of time and not have us tied down till 2016.
Mm-hmm. I can find out if we can bring that back to the next board meeting if you wish.
Thank you.
Tom, did you have something?
Well, option B and D sounded good, but the friendly amendment or the suggestion Commissioner David just made about investigating going month to month sounds good, but I would guaranteedly proceed on leaving the palace and giving notice.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can go month to month, that's great. I pity having meetings up in the work loft.
We got the warehouse.
That's what I meant.
Commissioner Bernardo, did you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple of minor things. Many years ago, the Oyster Point Marina location was supposed to be a temporary location. It was never supposed to be the permanent location. So eventually, I mean, I would like to see a permanent place too. I agree with Commissioner David that we've got to have a permanent location, and preferably, you know, I'm thinking closer to the coast side just because that's where I think a large group of our stakeholders are. With all due respect to the Oyster Point side of the house, and I haven't forgotten the Oyster Point side of the house. We operate 2 harbors. However, here's my concern. My concern is, of course, again, timing. We're in the midst of, as Mr. Grindy said, we're in the midst of now having an executive search firm, getting a new GM. What are the moving costs? I mean, is it going to cost more to move? I mean, you know, I don't know what those are. Okay, I don't know. So that's a question in my mind. So my biggest concern is the disruption of business. Okay, because checks have to be cut to people. We have to process. We have to do billings. We've got to do the day-to-day operations. You know, how will this disrupt the 27 people who work at the Harbor District? That's kind of my thing. Because if I were an employee, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, oh my God, we got to get out of there by May. What are we going to do? Get the trucks and just get going. So that's my concern, okay? So that's why I'm leaning more towards A or B. Preferably, actually, I'm closer to B because you know, like I said, Oyster Point Marina was supposed to be a temporary location. It was never supposed to be the permanent location. But I don't know how quickly, from a viability perspective, how quickly you could just give notice February 1st and get out of there by May. And get the trucks going and put everything into boxes and just, I don't know. So, and I'm not going to claim to know. So I'm just going to put that out there. So that's why I'm going to support B. Thank you.
Okay.
They did provide a timeline, a proposed timeline if we were to move to and of the package.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very best guess, for lack of a better way to put it. And also looking at other things that are going on that we know of during that time as well. Just so that there's no surprises here of what we'll be doing in the next 6 months that are short.
So that timeline was really helpful. Thank you for including that. There's also some information about costs, prior board packet memo and whatnot. So I have a couple comments here. I did like the comment that Commissioner David made about investigating whether or not we have the option to go month to month. I think that absolutely makes sense. We should check out whether or not that's possible, so that if we needed, you know, if the board decided that the headquarters should move, then we have that cushion. So the sooner we could check into that, probably the better.
Should be able to get an answer before Monday.
That'd be great. And then in option B, I'm leaning towards option B. I think that we might want to consider including not just rental, but also looking at if there is some, I don't know that there is anything available on the coast side right now, but
Pretty slim.
I'm pretty sure there's not, but you know, why not just keep our options open if we're going to look? So maybe we could modify that to rental or purchase, just to see what's out, whatever this agent that is helping the district right now might drum up. And then I understand the urgency of this because of the timing that we need to move on doing something quickly, so that we can we have a plan of action. So I think it makes sense to have this come back to the January 21st meeting after the general manager has had an opportunity to really talk to the property managers and find out what our options are. So is there a motion to approve one of these options?
I have one more
Oh,
question.
yes.
And I don't want this to become more burdensome, but what would help me make a decision is if I would know how much space the district really needs. I did look online on what the average person going from a president down to a temp is estimated, what kind of square footage they should occupy, plus reception area, conference room and stuff, but I don't know if this gives me a right estimate, and I don't need to get a fixed number, but some kind of estimate, because it's not 27 people that are going to move, it's 8, right? Or 7, 8, how
What's
many?
the number? I'm sorry. 6 people.
I think the biggest piece of, you know, one of the buildings that we, just to be very upfront about it, the building we looked at buying last year, one of the reasons that the board at that time was very interested in it is it had a space that was large enough for, it being a little larger than this. I believe Granada Sanitary meets in the same space right now, is it? Or is it upstairs or downstairs in that building?
Granada Sanitary used to be in the inland half of the second floor. We met in part of that space. It didn't accommodate more than a handful of members of the public. And then later we moved to the third floor, and so now we occupy the whole third floor, and half of that is our meeting room.
There is a space on the second floor of that building, just talking rental for a minute, that had roughly a little, I'm gonna say a third larger of than this space, to accommodate a meeting space. And the beauty of having a meeting space is obviously that we're at our home when we meet.
But since our goal should be to reduce the cost for rental space, it would just help me make a decision if I would have some kind of rough estimate for the square footage that actually is.
Not a problem, not a problem.
And you just reminded me about meeting space. For me, that's like really, really critical that we find a location that has meeting space for a number of reasons. It's been challenging moving back and forth and having the staff have to set up equipment constantly. It just takes an amazing amount of energy and time for the staff to do that for every single meeting. If we had a meeting room, they could leave all the equipment set up. We would be able to have PowerPoint presentations without so much effort. I just think that the whole meeting process would become a lot less work. And when the board is reviewing things like bills and claims, or the treasurer is working with the secretary to, if there's check signing or whatnot happening, that can happen way more seamlessly when we're in our own office space. You can't just haul checks around to various locations. It's not a secure environment. So to be able to conduct business when you have the whole board together and do those types of things would just make the process a lot smoother. So I think that it would streamline things and be good for the staff as well as for the board, and very good for the public, because there'd be a lot less confusion about where the meeting is going to be. That's always the big question. Where's the meeting going to be? Is it in South City or is it in Half Moon Bay? So anyway, is there a motion to approve one of the 4 options, A through D, or to amend them slightly?
Well, do we need a motion, or do we bring this up at the meeting on the 21st? Because we had a couple of questions that were going to be answered prior to the meeting on the 21st. So do we carry this forward? Then we'll know whether we have the option of going month to month, and then we can include possible purchase options. So do we?
I think, and this is a question for Stephen Miller, I think we have to authorize for the general manager to work with the real estate agent, but maybe we don't. Is that necessary?
I don't, if you want to provide specific instruction, I see no problems with doing so by motion, but I mean, Scott's hearing is hearing what you're saying, and I would be willing to wager that if you just carry this forward, that he would do his job and put something on the agenda for the next meeting in keeping with your wishes, but there's no reason why you can't make a motion if you'd like to.
So is the board comfortable with just carrying this forward?
I'm sorry, with carrying, what is sort of the motion? I'm lost. It's the month to month? It's
It's the option B with 2 investigations. One, the month-to-month option,
Right,
and
it's the
also to
month-to-month.
look at purchase options.
As well as rental
How much space we need.
and
Yeah, I
square
was- I
footage?
think I was supportive of
Maybe
these, so.
clarify what I think my instructions were.
Okay.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
What I believe I heard is A, check into month to month, check into moving costs. Also, what are purchase options, and then also a square footage type usage of space for the staff and also for meeting space. So that we have more of a, you know, what really works for us.
Okay.
And I don't think there was anything else unless I missed it.
So are we now all comfortable? Okay,
I
so,
have one more question, I'm
oh,
sorry.
okay.
Are we currently paying for meeting space? Are we paying for this room? And, okay, so we would save cost if we would have a conference room. Okay, thanks.
And potentially, if you have a meeting room like this in a building that we either own or maybe even rented, we could potentially rent it out, or some kind of, you know, working with other agencies, maybe to have some other, you know, deal, for lack of a better term for it right now.
Good
Uses.
point,
Yeah,
Okay.
just so that the space is available to others too.
Okay, so we're gonna continue this on until the January 21st meeting. All right. So next up, we have item 10, which is discussion and possible action, adopt policies for staff's handling of requests from commissioners and from the public for documents and information. And I provided a report on this item 10. So I'll go ahead and just give the report. So what I provided in the board packet are 2 potential policies for the board's consideration, which would clarify response to the California Public Records Act requests, and clarify the staff's response to document requests from commissioners. I can read both of these, if that's, maybe I should do that. Have you guys read them? Read them? Okay. Is there any discussion or questions?
I just have a comment that I think that now that we'll have a communications committee, that I think it will also help with website updates and get more documents available online, and then I think that should help with reducing public record as requests and, you know, increase transparency. So I think this will make this portion a lot easier in front of us.
Yes.
The only comment I have would be to add a caveat. My concern would be using just recently specific staff who might be doing PRA type requests, maybe on vacation or something, and how we handle that. There's nothing there for a couple people are out with the flu, and all of a sudden we have a timeline to meet, and maybe the other people are out of the office at meetings or something. How do we meet that need? And I think it's just finding, or a holiday came up, you know, just like we just had the Christmas and New Year's holidays, and you know, Thanksgiving as well, and others. Just trying to make sure we don't put ourselves in a box too tight, so we have something to protect us, so that we're not, you know, as we march forward to assist and complete the task, we want to make sure we also don't have something that we trip on. Yeah, that's all.
Do you have a specific change that you want to make? Just so I understand.
I guess as the person that does the PRA requests, under normal circumstances, I try to get them out in less than 10 days if I have the information at my fingertips, because the faster I can get it out, the faster it's finished and I don't have to deal with it anymore. If it's going to take longer than that, sometimes it will take a while to gather up the documents and figure out if they're exempt, or to have someone scan them and then organize them in some kind of manner so they can be scanned properly. I think the Public Records Act of 10 days is reasonable. I think 5 days is, I mean, I just hope, I wish that we can move past the problems that we had before and recognize that staff is going to honor everybody's requests. I think that's what we're all here for. I think we're happy to do that. I think we have always been happy to do that, and in some ways we've been hindered.
To make it more comfortable for the staff in the event of some unforeseen circumstances, would you be more comfortable if it was 5 to 10 business days? So like there was a range there?
Yeah, because I try to, if I feel like it's going to be, I mean, I try to respond within the 10 days. If I feel like I can't gather up everything, I at least let the person know that I can't gather everything within the 10 days, and try to give them a date as to when they're going to get it. If they can get it right away, they get it right away. So, and that's going to go for the commissioners as well. And I think Scott feels the same way. We're going to put our best foot forward and give you all the information that you need when you need it.
Okay. So that would, your comment would be specific to the policy regarding the California Public Records Act requests. So I just notated on here that instead of it saying 5 business days, it would be 5 to 10 business days, and that would be in three locations on the document. So with those changes, do we have a motion to approve? Oh, yeah.
Just to clarify, do you want me to make this into an actual policy, or would you like this just to be a procedure?
I'd like it to be a policy.
I can bring it back to maybe probably February as an actual, but we'll still go with it, but then
Okay.
it'll be more.
Do we need to approve this with a motion if it's coming back to the board later? How does that work? As an actual policy?
It's up to you. You could approve it tonight as an actual policy.
Oh,
You
okay.
can ask it to be brought back to you to approve
Okay,
later.
okay. So do we have a motion to approve these two policies? Oh, thank you. Let's see, we have a speaker slip for item 10. Leonard Warren.
347 meg of PDFs for tonight's packet is the procedure needs to explicitly say that if a document exists in electronic form, that a scanned copy is never acceptable. That the original the original electronic format has to be provided. So most of these things are Word documents, some of them are Excel spreadsheets. Those should not be printed and run through the scanner, in particular to make the packets. But in response to anyone requesting an electronic copy, printing it and then scanning it is never an acceptable option, and I would like you to explicitly include that in the policy.
Why?
If
If
we have a letter that's signed by the general manager, it's not gonna have the signature on it if it's
Okay.
not scanned.
And that's fine. I've heard that excuse before, but that's fine. Or you scan the one page with the signature on it. But personally, I think it's a really bad idea to put signatures online on the documents that I've signed. I have told staff point blank, you will not put my signature online. It's a security problem. But in any case, I have really fast internet. I pay for business class internet, and it took me a number of minutes to download that stuff. And somebody with slow internet connection, somebody with DSL, or God forbid dial-up. Dial-up, it would have taken 12 hours. I'm not exaggerating, 12 hours to download the packet materials for tonight. The scanned documents are never acceptable unless there is no electronic copy in existence, like the stuff you got from the strategic plan consultants. I'm sure that they have an electronic format. It could have been obtained from them instead of a 68 megabyte and 100 megabyte file for those. So you've got to put a stop to the scanned documents.
Thank you. So I have one last comment, which just, unless someone else has anything, which is that while I agree that the scanned documents that we are placing in our board packet and providing as public records are too large, and there are better ways of doing it, and if it's possible, because there aren't signatures, to use the original PDF or whatnot, I totally support doing that. I want to address that at a later date, because it's not just an issue specific to the PRA requests. It's a broader issue that's affecting our board packets as well, and I don't see any reason to deal with that at this time. I think it's a valid point, but we need to think about, work with the staff and think about how to deal with that, and it's not going to be something that we can resolve overnight. So is there a motion to approve the policies with the minor amendments suggested by Marietta Harris? And that's to go from 5 to 10 business days.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carabano? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. Item 11.
Point of order, we're nearing 8 o'clock, would it be appropriate, Steve, are you okay with your filming? Are you okay with filming, or can we take a break to switch tapes? I don't want you to run out.
It's 4 hours.
Oh, I apologize, I thought it was 2.
Okay, good. Item 11, discussion and possible action, consider revising general manager's spending limit. Scott, do you want to take this and talk about the existing resolution?
Basically, right now, there is a $15,000 limit for the majority of what the general manager would buy. And I guess to give you an example of some of the concerns I have would be, everything from equipment to, we do rescue, to fuel for the vessels, to, we have an engine go out and we have to, John might have a boat that's out right now, and all of a sudden you have another one that goes down. We need to be able to get it done now, and I'd hate to have to keep calling a special meeting or something just to get the $8,000 or $10,000 approval done, to get that repair back up and running. It is in the budget, the board approved that budget, so it's really just, putting a limit on how much we spend per item or action we're trying to resolve. Is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Is there any questions or comments on the part of the board? I know I definitely have some.
I just don't understand, sorry, what is the proposed spending limit? There's no.
I did not propose a change.
There isn't a change proposed. We're reviewing the current spending limit. And I have a change that I'd like to make, but it's not about the spending limit, but it's sort of related to the spending limit. So hopefully I can do that. Anyway, anything else?
Well, I just believe that the key was what Mr. Grindy said, referred to, I believe, as an item. And I think the abuses in the past came that you spend $10,000 this month, then you spend $10,000 next month on the same thing, and then you spend $10,000 next month on the same thing. The key is an item.
Well, and not to confuse the matter, but, we do buy things like rescue supplies there every month, so there'd be a purchase there or something where it's gonna be every month, or just like buying fuel all the time. There is gonna be some purchases that come up regularly, but that's a normal operational business expense, not a consultant or others that we're hiring and hiring and hiring.
I think that was the abuse.
Did you have anything? Okay. So the reason that I asked for this item to be on the agenda is because we have had a pattern in the past of the general manager hiring consultants or contractors to do work without board approval, and the work has been ongoing. And so if you totaled up all the work that the consultant did, it might well exceed the $15,000 spending limit. And I feel that if the district is going to hire consultants and contractors to do ongoing work, that the board should know about it, and that it should come through the board, and that way the public is informed and has an opportunity to make comment, and the board knows what's happening. However, there are always emergencies that might come up, and with responding to some sort of a threat to public health and safety, if a contractor needed to be hired, to do a couple of different things related to the emergency, I would be comfortable with that, because we have to respond to emergencies quickly. So I actually wanted to make a motion. I'm assuming no one else here is going to want to make a motion about this. Sorry, I'm not handling this very well. This is confusing for me. Can I make a motion? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion. I move that we approve a policy stating that the general manager does not have authority to hire consultants and/or contractors prior to board approval unless responding to a threat to public health and safety. So just to be clear, this is not changing the spending limit at all. It's just changing the way the board is communicated with by the general manager.
Question?
Mm-hmm.
I have no issue with the consultants, but I think the word contractors is, I hate to call it vague, but it could, I think of contractors, it could be a computer tech person, it could be a contractor who puts 2x4s up. It gets real vague there real quick, or a service provider contractor who comes out and repairs an engine. I'm trying to think of a way I'm hunting for a word here that would be better than contractor, or somehow to help.
Or Mr. Draper?
I agree.
we've had problems in the past with sewer lines, with pump stations, whatever. That could, and those are contractors that we hire to come and fix those. So if we have to wait 2 weeks for a board to come to a meeting to get those systems fixed, it won't work.
Do those systems constitute an emergency though? Because if they were,
Sure.
Or they could become one.
It
But-
could become one very quickly. Yeah.
would, and they would impact public health and safety?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that the way that I worded the motion, it allows for that work to happen because those particular contractors are working on something that is in response to a public health and safety concern. Is that too vague?
Yeah. Because everybody might have a different definition.
I don't know, to me it seems pretty clear. Stephen, do you have a better idea on how to word that?
Certainly wouldn't presume to be better. Am I understanding that your concern is to distinguish between the purchase of equipment, materials, and supplies and the procuring of services? Maybe I'm not understanding.
Well,
that's
even-
the distinction to be made.
I guess I'll give a couple of examples so we can sort this out. Even with IT, like I don't think that we should have ongoing IT costs not coming through the board if it's going to amount to over $15,000 because it's not an emergency, it's not related to public health and safety. The same thing, and I don't know if you call your IT person a contractor or consultant, but also another example would be web design, where that has never come through the board, and there's been spending of over $15,000 on that. So those are examples of places where these things need to come through the board because there's no web design emergency that's going to affect public health and safety that I can think of, although we do need to have some tsunami inundation information on our website. We do now, but we need to do a little more with that. So I think you get my point.
I have a question now, especially for IT support, if there is, it's not a risk to public safety and health, but it could be a risk to productivity of the district if there is an issue with computers or the network and someone, that can't be postponed to the next board meeting and has to be addressed. So I would be worried about that.
The
but-
IT side would be even in the key card system we use for our gate control, especially at Oyster Point and some parts of Fuller Point, where if those two fail, and then it's urgent, but it's not, nobody's dying from it. Basically, the access to the bathrooms or whatever doesn't happen.
But it's then covered by this motion because the motion says that unless responding to a threat to public health and safety. So if it is responding to a threat of public health and safety, then this policy change or, the policy change doesn't kick in. So in your example, if there was an IT disruption that was, going to cause some sort of threat, then that could be handled given the way the policy's worded. John?
So I have a question. If operation deems it a safety issue, and we go ahead and do it, and it comes back to the board, and you don't deem it a safety issue, then what happens?
I think we have to, well, I'm just speaking for myself here. I think we have to let the staff decide what's a safety issue. I think we have to do that now. We already are doing that. I think it's really up to the staff to decide when something's a threat to public health and safety.
So the day-to-day operations running the harbor is up to the operations. Correct?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
The day-to-day operations of running the harbors is up to the operation.
If it's an emergency, then the board can't.
Well, we don't want to see it, we deem it an emergency, bring it back to you, and you guys go, well, we don't think this is an emergency. Then we're going to get, I don't want to be chastised for doing something that I feel is important, but the board might say that was an emergency.
Well, the board could do that now if they wanted to, but
Well, not
I don't think we
necessarily.
would. I think that I don't think that I'm proposing any change to the board allowing the staff to determine what is an emergency to public safety. The board cannot make those determinations. We are not full-time employees of the district. We're just part-time elected officials. So it's up to the staff to determine what a public safety emergency is.
I'm sorry, but that's kind of contradictory, President Brennan, because doesn't your policy basically elevate it to the board level to determine what is public health and safety?
Yeah.
Well, let me reread
If it's a
it.
policy, if it's out of the hands of staff, it becomes a board level decision, right?
Maybe there's a way we can clarify that. I'm not saying that you could amend it. So I'll reread the motion, and then maybe there's going to be an amendment. Let's see, we're on 11, okay. I move that we approve a policy stating that the general manager does not have authority to hire consultants and/or contractors prior to board approval unless responding to a threat to public health and safety. It doesn't specify who determines the threat.
I guess I'm confused.
I'm lost.
I don't understand.
Because I think that and I was out of the room for a second, so I apologize if I'm stating something that was already stated while I was out of the room. I think your concern was, like, we work a lot with Moffett and Nickel or some other places, GHD. We had somebody do a couple of studies, and instead of that going to the board, it was just a phone call, and the next thing we know, there was a bill for $14,999. Let's
Right.
just say.
Yeah,
So that's what you're trying to avoid.
that's right.
Okay. So, I'm not sure if we want to say hire. I know what you're trying to get to, but I think that what staff is concerned about, like for instance, I'll have to call Steve tomorrow regarding the problems that you're having with your email system. So technically I am calling him to do something, but, you know, he's a consultant / contractor, but I'm not gonna spend $14,999, but I am gonna spend some money. So are you saying that each time we have to do that, we should come to you? Or are we recognizing that what you don't want is for us to go out and do $14,999 to a consultant? I get that, and I think we all understand what you want. If there's a way we could say that, so that we can still run the day-to-day operations of the Harbor District and still give you your concerns, which I completely understand.
So somebody needs to amend the motion then.
Yeah.
So if there's a specific amendment, let's hear it.
Trying to figure out,
You guys need to.
Because, you know, I think it's clear. I don't know what exact amendment you're looking for that might help you feel that
Seems
it's.
like under consultant, it's design and research type consultants is what you're really talking
So
about.
you want the consultant defined more specifically? Is
I
that,
think both of them. I mean, I'm just saying under the first one, consultant, you're talking, like, if I was to go out and hire an architect, I'd want to bring that to the board first. You know, and the same with a consultant who's doing a study, something of that nature. And maybe we can come back to the board with some recommendations of what works for keeping the operation going without coming to a screeching halt, without coming back to the board every time to get approval for, you know, because I can see John saying, well, I'm checking out the engine, and I can't get the engine checked out till, you know, I'm trying to come up with a good solution here.
oh, we have a public comment from Leonard Warren. We've run out of speaker slips, so he has not provided a speaker slip on this item.
I'm suggesting that the staff concerns that you add to the public health and safety, another one that says affects, has a significant effect on ongoing district operations that needs to be addressed quickly.
Business operation.
And I think that'll address staff's concern.
Has an effect on ongoing,
Business
day-to-day business. Okay, so let's try this again. I move that we approve a policy stating that the general manager does not have authority to hire consultants and/or contractors prior to board approval unless responding to a threat to public health and safety that has an effect on ongoing day-to-day business operations. Vague enough? Okay.
Just need some work, yeah, just need a little bit of.
It's important that you guys are comfortable with it because you have to live with it.
Well, I think maybe what I'd also like to do, just for the board's benefit, is maybe after let's say the next month, we look at what came up and bring it back, just so we have some examples of what came up, and, it can't hurt, to at least discuss it, have a discussion, just to kind of say, here's what we ran into, do you see any problems? So we're working with good examples of what's, good example to move forward.
In case we need to modify it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
No.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Mathush?
Yes.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. Where am I? 12. Item 12. Discussion and possible action, consideration of revising policy and contract regarding use of district's legal counsel. And we have a memo from Scott Grindy? Or is this from Stephen Miller?
Not for me.
I think it was actually Commissioner Brennan.
You're listed on there.
I know, I'm just looking at it, though, I think you gave us the red one.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask Stephen Miller to explain the changes outlined here.
So, I'm not recommending any change, you serve at your pleasure, and we're perfectly happy with our present arrangement, but I was asked to propose an amendment to one clause that is in our current contract that restricts individual board members from reaching out to discuss issues and assign tasks to general counsel without approval of the whole board. And so you have a red line of what shows what the existing contract is and what the contract would look like if that language were removed. I am certainly not recommending any course of action entirely up to the board.
And just a clarifying question. Is this basically taking it back to what the contract used to look like previously before you guys were hired? You're not familiar?
I don't know.
Because I think
This was the contract that was presented to us, and we were happy to sign it.
Okay. Because this language was added fairly recently, and there's documentation about that in the board packet. I believe it was, where's that, was it a resolution or? What date was it that we made the change?
In the corner of the page, bottom of the page says 11/21, I believe is what you're looking for, it's highlighted.
11/21, okay. So,
Looking for the date that was done?
yeah, what,
Which is 15/21, the end of that contract with Aronson, Dickerson, Portland, and Zone says August 21st, 2013.
okay, so it was 2013 when this language was added. And did you look at that, Stephen, when you were working on this? Did you look at the changes that were made in 2013?
To the extent that I looked at the changes that were made to try try and respond to your request to modify that particular paragraph to
Right,
remove the prohibition against individual board members contacting and assigning tasks to joint counsel.
you did. Okay, thanks. So I asked to have this included in the agenda, and I have some comments. I want to hear from the other board members if you have anything.
I have a question. My question is this, Mr. Miller, from working with your other clients in other districts, in other jurisdictions, are you used to having individual board members contact you, or is it done through the general manager, the executive director? How is it usually done?
I would say in the overwhelming majority of our clients, we rarely have direct interactions with individual board members. But I would also say that it is unusual that there is a contractual prohibition against it, although not unheard of by any means. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Because I asked that question because I'm not used to, having worked in the public sector pretty much all my life, I'm not used to seeing individual board members engage staff attorney or consultant attorney in that way. So that's why I asked that question. Thank you.
It's not unheard of. It often happens that the general manager, board president, and council get together to discuss an issue. It's usually not done at the general counsel's initiative.
Right.
And certainly I can think of many cases where you get a phone call from an individual commissioner on a particular matter that's a particular question or a concern, so it's not unheard of.
But it's usually done through the board president, you said, and the general manager.
I'm not sure that I can give you an answer that's satisfactorily consistent. It happens in a number of different ways.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So one of the things that kind of brought this up for me recently was back when I was first on the board, our counsel at the time, Ms. Savare, had communication with me and invited me to come to her office to get a sort of a tutorial on legal issues. And so I did that, and it was informative and helpful. And there was a certain amount of communication that we had to have in order to make that possible. With this policy, the way that we have it set up right now, that type of situation is challenging. Also, if the board president needs to communicate with counsel because there's some urgent reason or issue that comes up, they're not able to do that. And they have to wait or hope that they can go through the general manager, who's also very busy. And there may be times when the general manager, counsel, and the board president need to communicate with each other. And as the policy stands right now, that's not allowable. So it puts the board and counsel and the general manager in a predicament when they're trying to work around this policy, which is just unworkable in my opinion. And I think we need to change it. So I haven't really thought this through, but I would like to make a motion that we make all the changes all the changes included here, and accept, is there a resolution or there's an amendment, and approve the amendment.
I second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
No.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Matoush?
Yes.
Commissioner
Aye. Okay. Item 13. Request for proposals, District Council Legal Services. Report, Scott Grindy.
Yes, I was asked to provide in a report, what the legal services cost in the past couple of years has been. And that is attached to this report, as well as the RFP that was done, for our present legal firm in this past year. And also where we advertise, requests.
Okay. And there, anything else? Okay. There's a speaker slip here for 13, Leonard Warren.
Good evening. Having been on board for 17 or 18 years now, and when I was first elected, our second order of business was replace the general counsel. When the board majority, when there's a new board majority with a different philosophical tilt than the previous board majority, it is essentially standard practice to replace general counsel, and usually the general manager leaves also. So you're half of that. You're halfway there now. And I was told to be nice. I'm going to be as nice as I can on this one. This business, for 20 years that I've been interacting with it, has never had competent counsel. Never. The district board did not want competent counsel, because competent counsel might sometimes tell them they can't do something. And so I'll give you an example, which I showed this to counsel during agenda item number 1. He didn't want to see it, and then he ignored it. It's in your packet. The Harbors and Navigation Code, Section 7071, a director shall not be treasurer. Does it get any clearer than that? And yet, he didn't say anything. He didn't give you the right advice. You need new counsel immediately. And I would suggest that you go out and hire interim counsel immediately while you're searching for new permanent counsel. This has gone on long enough. It's gone on for way more than 20 years. I can only speak to it for 20 years. You need new counsel immediately.
Oh boy. Okay. So we have been presented with information about the process. If we were to put out an RFP, there's a list of publications where that would be posted. We have a copy included in the board packet of the most recent RFP, which was dated, let's see, that was back from December 2014. Does that sound right? No?
No, I think it was April. Well, the closing date was April 28th of 2014.
Okay.
The closing date of RFP.
Okay. And information about legal fees, and I have some comments I want to make, and I want to find out if the board has comments first.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Whenever
It's your turn.
it's the time. I do hear Leonard's concerns, and I would still like to raise some caution, also just pointing out that the district has experienced a lot of disruption, and with the general manager retiring and the results of the election and the board change, a possible move of the office, that I think it leaves the Harbor District somewhat vulnerable, and I think we have to look at the impacts of all the decisions we're making, and we have to pick our priorities. And I would really like to emphasize that we have to conduct business professionally and not, possibly recklessly by doing everything at once. And we need to focus on some stability and continuity for the harbor district. And I think it's good to have options, especially when there is the possibility of saving money for the district. So I think it's good to put out a request for proposals and look at the options that we have. But I would just caution on rushing forward, making a decision on this too soon.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm looking at our legal costs, and I hope 2014 is an outlier. When I look at that, I just shake my head. And at the same time, if we do an RFP, I would urge current council to apply. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple things. I agree with Commissioner David about the disruption. I mean, we have made a lot of big decisions tonight, and that's not a bad thing, but I do caution us in really jumping the gun on a lot of these big items, because we are in a state of transition right now, and I think that we need to do it meticulously and in a very measured way. And I don't support changing district council. We issued an RFP a while back. That's why we got our current district council. We interviewed several firms for that. I'm also concerned that if we suddenly change district council, we would lose the institutional history from the past year, where there's been a lot of legal activity, which I can't go into because of closed session rules. But we would be losing all that institutional history, and whoever we hired, we'd have to ramp them up all over again on the past history of the legal issues that we've been dealing with. So, and quite frankly, with regards to legal costs, I mean, they wouldn't rack up like this if there weren't so many lawsuits and attacks against the district, So I myself, I'm opposed to, at this juncture, bringing on a new district council. I mean, I may entertain the idea at some future time, maybe 6 months from now, maybe when we have a new general manager, but not right now, just because this is just so disruptive. I mean, we're going through so much, like, all at once, and that's just how I see it right now. So I'm going to be opposed to doing this right now.
Okay. Any other comments?
Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to point out that there's 6 years of data included in the board packet from 2009 to 2014, and 2014 I don't think includes all of our legal costs to date, right? We haven't received all of our invoices yet.
Yeah.
So we still have more pending legal costs that are not included in the totals here. But just to give a couple of numbers, in 2013, the total legal fees were $96,000. In 2014, and keep in mind that we don't have all the billing in yet, so there are going to be additional fees coming up. Just what we know about right now for 2014 is $267,000, actually more than that, but roughly $267,000. So that's really that's more than doubling. That's like tripling almost. It may be tripling our legal costs. So that for me is a major concern, and for other reasons, I also feel that the district would be better prepared if we did put out an RFP. It doesn't mean that we have to make any drastic changes suddenly or quickly, because number one, that process takes some time, and I don't believe that it would take a lot of staff time to put together the RFP because we already have one from 2014 that we could make some modifications to and send out. So I believe that by considering new proposals, the district would be best served. I think that it could lead to reducing our legal fees, and I think that's an important goal. We only have so much money, and the district is already spending more than we have. So, this is, for me, kind of an urgent situation. However, I do agree with both Commissioner David and Commissioner Bernardo that doing anything too quickly would be unnecessary at this time. I mean, we need to be very well thought out and considered about any changes we make in this arena. Is there a motion?
Can I have
Yeah.
2 more things
Yeah.
to add? I just want to point out that I think the increase in legal cost is also, it's not just an increase in cost, it's an increase in hours that we require legal counsel for, because I think it's part of the trouble that the district has gotten itself into, and I hope that, so we needed more help, the district needed more help in 2014 from legal counsel, and I hope that the cost will also go down just by, more professional conduct of the board. And the other thought that I had is if we write an RFP or put out an RFP that we could possibly add in the section of experience of respondent to include the knowledge of the California Coastal Act and possibly CEQA, but I think the knowledge of the California Coastal Act would be more important and possibly valuable to the district.
So I would like to propose a motion that we instruct the general manager, or maybe it doesn't need to be a motion, I don't know. We instruct the general manager to bring back to the board a draft of a RFP, including language specific to notifying applicants that the board's interested in knowing if they have Coastal Act experience, to make sure they include that in their proposal, and then we could review that draft RFP for approval at the next board meeting. Can I just give direction to do that or do I need?
Again, I think it would be better to do it through a motion.
Okay. So I move that we have the general manager bring back a draft RFP to the next January 21st board meeting, which essentially will be the same as our last RFP with the addition of language specific to Coastal Act experience. Can I get a second? Are there any amendments? Another motion?
I will second the request for proposal.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Nope.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Matoush?
Yes.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brenner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. 3-1. So, item 14, discussion and possible action. Consider acquiring equipment required to facilitate PowerPoint and video presentations by staff, consultants, and public. And we have a memo from Ms. Harris.
asked to put together a memo regarding the board asking us to require equipment for facilitating PowerPoint video presentations. We do already have a projector and a laptop and a screen. I think the projector is about 8 years old, maybe a little older. So we probably could use a new projector because goodness knows projectors have come a long way since then. So, so that would be approximately, we have some alternatives here, which would be to buy new equipment at a cost no greater than $3,500 for an updated projector screen and case. And I think one of the other things that we might want to have is a cart that would make it raise and lower. They're about 80-something bucks, so that wherever we were at, we would be able to deal with that. So, and we do have a laptop that we had specifically bought, I think, a couple of years ago. It's a Lenovo ThinkPad that we use whenever we need to make presentations. We usually use it for the budget workshop or the strategic planning workshop or anything like that. The only thing that staff would need to purchase at this point would be an adapter. I think it's about $40 or so that would, so it would be able to be used with like an Apple laptop. So the projector would be able to be used.
Okay, so I just want to clarify this so I understand correctly. There's the Mac adapter, which would allow for PowerPoints from an Apple machine for about $40.
Correct.
And then the other items that you think would be beneficial were, can you just give me
A cart.
a cart? Okay.
A case. I don't think we need a new screen, but I think those are about not even $100, 89 something.
So our screen is probably sufficient.
I think it's sufficient.
Okay.
And the projector could be anywhere from like $600 to $2,000. I like to get the least expensive, best one.
Okay.
That's what I usually like to.
So then, all right. So is there any questions or discussion?
Comment.
Yes.
You know, if this added equipment will help bring us into the 21st century, I'm all for it. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Oh, great. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to spend $3,500, up to $3,500 to
Second.
drag ourselves kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
I second that.
Okay. Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carolano? President Brennan?
Aye. Item 15, discuss and possible action, regular meeting start time and end time of Harbor District meetings. And we have a draft resolution attached in the board packet, and we also have the last resolution attached in the board packet when the time was changed from 7 to 11 to 6 to 10. And the draft resolution has blanks so that if the board decided to change the time, we could do that tonight. And I don't see a speaker slip on this one. So any question? What's that? Oh, really? Oh, gosh, you're right. There is, I thought it was a different number. Okay. I have a speaker slip for Leonard Warren.
I'm so happy to see this on the agenda. I just hope you do the right thing. I hope I don't have to remind the board that multiple times, one or more directors were not able to make it to the 6 o'clock meeting. And I primarily deal with agencies on the coast side, and I'm on record as saying that the earlier the start time of the board meeting, there's a direct correlation with how public unfriendly the board is. And 6 o'clock is a ridiculous time to start a board meeting. The the earliest reasonable start time is 7 o'clock, and I hope that you would shift it back to no earlier than 7. The three co-side agencies that are most public friendly, actually, all three of them start at 7:30. Oh, wait a minute, no, that's not true. MCC switched to 7. I'll go into that. And you might consider what my sister agency up the road, Montero District, does, which is they have a curfew of, I believe, 11 o'clock that can be extended by motion for up to 1 hour, and the motion has to specify what the length of the extension is. And so if the motion doesn't pass, their meetings are adjourned at 11 o'clock. So I would suggest, because you have one commissioner who has to get up at ODAR 30 or before, that you consider the curfew that makes it difficult to go past it.
Any questions, comments, discussion?
How does staff feel about 6 versus 7?
I think that, the staff, I can't speak for all the staff, but I've heard comments both ways that, it's nice when you get a chance to get a bite to eat before you get here. At the same time, staff, started in the morning and I've worked through the whole day, and when the meetings go really late, it turns into a 16 to 18 hour day. And then they're back to work next morning, much as other people are. And it's, it's kind of a blend. It's really that's about the only thing I can say.
One thing, it took me almost an hour to get here from Oyster Point. I got here about 5 to 6, I left at 5 o'clock from the marina. You help with their time.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the start time is not the big deal, it's the end time.
Amen.
You gotta get up early and get to work early and.
It's a part of the early to bed, early to the rise club.
Yeah, I'm
That's
usually
right.
better than 9 o'clock, so.
I agree. I'm with you.
So I think since, this agenda was pretty heavy, or is pretty heavy, and we're probably expecting another, I don't know, couple months to 6 months where we have probably more ambitious agendas, and maybe we can just revisit this and keep the start time at 6 or maybe at 6:30 so we can end by 10 or at 11 latest, because we know that we're gonna aim at that's just my idea. I just don't want to lose the public by starting too early or lose them by going too late. So it's, it's kind of like, it's hard to say where we're gonna.
It's hard to please all people.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I also know that, we're making some tough decisions, and I don't think I can make intelligent decisions past 11 o'clock or midnight anymore. So, or I don't want to, these are very important issues we're dealing with, and I don't want to rush through it because we're getting tired and running out of steam. So maybe the earlier start time will work for the next 3 to 4 months, and then we revisit it.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I mean, having done them both, I mean, the 6 o'clock or the 7 o'clock, I mean, to me, they're kind of the same, but I do agree with Mr. Draper that it's the end time that's the critical part. I could go either way. I mean, yeah, I could go either way, really.
Okay. So, while I've been on the board, we've had both. When I started, we were at 7 to 11, and I don't really want to be at a meeting till 11 o'clock myself. However, I have a hard time getting here at 6, partly because my clients are all over the Bay Area, and I sometimes have to drive in rush hour, and if I'm going to Oyster Point, I'm definitely driving at rush hour to get to a 6 o'clock meeting. I just think it puts us in the commute hour at such a rate that you could just be sitting in gridlock, and that is frustrating, and then you're late for the meeting. So that concerns me, having done it, you know. Also, I do think that it does mean that you don't get to have dinner when you have a meeting that starts at 6. At least dinner's out for me. Like, I can't even stop and get something quick because I just don't have time to do it. And I think that in the past, you know, I can't speak for the staff, but when we had the 7 start time, I definitely had time to eat before the meeting, and I feel like I make better decisions when I've had food before the meeting. But I agree that, you know, ending meetings at 11 is not ideal. So I favor starting at 7. I think it is more friendly for the public. I think it's, you know, it allows for the dinner hour. So that's my preference. And as far as the end time goes, I just want to point out that we've had a super heavy agenda tonight, and you've got a board president who is brand new and really doesn't know what she's doing yet. And it's only 8:42. And I know the meeting feels long, but we haven't even got to 9 o'clock yet. So I think we're doing pretty good here in moving through the agenda. And I think that maybe what we want to do is say 7 to 10 and then have it extend to 11 in the event of some, you know, unforeseeable craziness. So that's one idea.
Threat to health and safety.
Exactly. So I don't know how to, should I make a motion, or does somebody want to make a motion?
Well, I would just say that I'm gonna be selfish and say I like 6, because sleep is a valuable commodity. Sleep is a more valuable commodity than food.
Fisherman says that, we're supposed to eat what you catch.
Exactly. But, the other, to meet everyone halfway, possibly 6:30, if anybody's amenable to that, that gives people stuck in traffic a little bit more time, but it also provides us for potentially getting out of here just a little bit earlier, because most of us, our body alarm clocks get us up at 4 o'clock because it's been so long. And anyway, I say.
So, so maybe what we should do is try 6:30 and see how that goes. Is that, I think that might be a good way to do it. And then that would mean that, I think we could still stick with the 10, and then we could extend it to 11 if something, you know, there was a public health and safety emergency or whatever. So I move that we accept this resolution with 6:30 as the start time for meetings, and termination being at 10 p.m.
With the option.
with the option to extend 1 hour if the board votes to approve that.
So if I could just add that you don't really need that last option,
Okay.
because if the board has that option, someone can make a motion to extend the meeting for an extra hour, whether or not it's included in the resolution. It's fine to keep it in there, but just so that you know.
Okay, well, if that's the case, let's drop it, because it just makes it more complicated. So it would just be 6:30 to 10 p.m.
And just to be clear, it would require a motion, a second, and a vote by the majority to extend it to past 10 o'clock.
Okay, I second.
I would advocate 6:30 to 9:30 to try and prevent these run-on meetings and meetings that don't require a lot of extra time.
6:30 to 9:30 with a 1 hour
I would support that.
option. That sounds
Yeah.
reasonable, so I would accept that amendment.
You have a second, so I need you to withdraw your
Oh.
second.
I withdraw the second.
And then have a new motion.
So we'll make a new motion. The start time will be 6:30, the end time will be 9:30.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew?
Aye.
Commissioner Carabano? President Brennan?
Aye. And the last item, well, before we get to Board of Harbor Commissioners, is item 16, discussion and possible action, policy regarding content of meeting minutes.
Yes, that's my report, and basically I've already directed staff to 2 minutes, as noted here, versus the action minutes that was being done probably for the last year or so. So they're gonna be doing that already, but it's in here for board action if you wish.
Does anybody have any questions, comments?
It's already being done. Do we need a motion or anything? We just,
Well, I want to make it one comment, which is, I actually didn't mind the action minutes. But what I was really hoping to have included was whether the public members who speak were in support or opposed to something. So to me, that's the most important thing. Our past minutes, before they were modified to action minutes, were so detailed. I don't think it's reasonable to expect Debbie to do that level of detail. And because we have the video now, I don't think that we need it. But what I would suggest is that if we could have a link to the meeting videos posted on the web page where we have our board packets and agendas, then it's an easy thing to do. Then you just click the link and it takes you right to the YouTube page where the video is posted. And I do that on my website, and I could explain that later. But I think that if we put the link to the video on our website, that really will help take the place of that high level of detail that you used to provide. And I would be comfortable with action minutes as long as we had the video link, so that Debbie has more time to do other more important stuff. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But
And then we'll add, we'll add your concern about saying, you know, Joe Smith spoke about his support of.
exactly, that would be the only change to the minutes. Is that, can I give that direction with the boards, if the board agrees, or do I have to make a motion?
I think the best way to assess that the board agrees would be to make a motion.
Okay. So, are there any questions about what I just proposed? Okay, so,
Commissioner,
yeah.
I just heard one comment from the public that I didn't hear correctly, but I think there was a reference to maybe what time it was on the video.
Oh,
You know, when because we've had videos where they were, say, 4 hours long, and all of a sudden you're searching for, finding, and I don't know exactly what we
I
can
don't
do,
know how we
but
can, we'll have to figure.
well,
we have to look into that.
okay, so I know a little bit about that, so I'll just try to tell you what I know, which is there is a special district locally, which is our Coastside Fire Protection District. Last time I checked, they do meeting videos, which are highly detailed, where you can go from agenda item to agenda item. You can click the item and go to that segment of the video, which is totally awesome, but it's expensive and it's a lot of work. And I'm not sure that, I think that's something maybe we could look into later. But at this time, what I have noticed is if you go to the YouTube page or the YouTube site and watch the video on YouTube versus watching it on the PCTV website, it's very easy to scroll through the video. It's still not ideal, but it's a lot easier to scroll through the video than if you watch the video through the website or however it used to be set up. So it's not perfect, but I think, given how little time Debbie has to, with everything else she has to do, to try to fit that into her schedule, I just don't see how she could write those highly detailed minutes again. I think there are other things she needs to be doing. So,
And the minutes at least include the start time, the wall
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't see why I couldn't do that
When
on
the
the
motion
tape.
is made
I
or
can,
whatever.
I would be able to document that. I think that would be something.
That's a great idea. And then, yeah, and then that could be included in the minutes and then people can go
Show
to,
that on the video.
yeah, I love that idea. How do I make a motion about that? Okay, so I move that we include links to meeting videos on the Harbor District website, that we create minutes that include public comment, support, and opposition to items, and that we include the time for each agenda item in the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. So next we have Board of Harbor Commissioners, item 17A, which is committee reports. And we don't have any active committees, so I'm going to move on to 17B, which is commissioner statements and requests. Item 17B1, the Board of Harbor Commissioners may make public statements limited to 5 minutes per commissioner. Does any board member have a statement that they would like to make at this time? Okay.
Thank you. I just want to take this brief moment to welcome our two newest commissioners, Commissioners David and Mathush. I look forward to working with you both on the board, and congratulations to our new president, President Brennan. And you know, as you've seen tonight, I'm specifically talking to the public, as you've seen tonight, while we may not all agree on every single issue, I myself appreciate the civility and the healthy discussions that we've had tonight. I think it's been very, very useful and for the district and beneficial. So I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Any other statements?
As far as public comments, mine won't be as beautiful and lofty as Commissioner Bernardo, but in my first few days of having won the election, a lot of people come up and have said a lot of things to me. I've had complaints about launch fees and proposals by people. I've had complaints about the shower stalls. And on a more realistic notice, I've been approached for more benches in the harbor, and I just actually don't know how far down our property goes. Specifically, it was from some elder individuals, and I got the impression they were below Sam's. I know there's a little bit of bench work there, but.
We have 2 left,
Okay, so somewhere,
and they're replacing benches. They're not new spots. We have no new spots available.
okay. That was one thing, and then, would this be the time to place an item on the agenda?
That's next.
Okay.
That's next. Any other statements?
Yeah, I have a comment. So I think that change is really good, and you know, in my campaign I was running for change, bringing change to the Harbor District, but the change on the board is also coming with a huge demand to staff, and I want to be careful and make sure we're not breaking people's back. I know we have a highly ambitious agenda packet with, I just want to point this out, this is close to 500 pages here, and even though the meeting moved really fast, this is a lot of work that went into this from staff, and I want to make sure we make an effort to balance the workload and that we keep prioritizing critical items. I know I'm one of the 3 commissioners that requested this meeting, so I'm partly responsible for this huge agenda packet, but I will learn quickly, I think, how much work goes into preparing these items, and definitely make an effort to better prioritize.
And I have one statement to make. So I also want to welcome Commissioners David and Mathush. So welcome to the Harbor District, and I also want to congratulate Commissioner Bernardo on winning re-election to the board. So, yeah, and then the last comment was just I wanted to give staff my thanks for all their effort being here tonight and making the board packet possible. And Scott, worked around the clock, I'm sure, right through the holidays, and really put a lot of effort into making this meeting possible. So thank you for that. And the next item is 17B2, which is any commissioner wishing to place an item on a future agenda may make a motion to place an item on a future agenda. Does anyone have any items that they want to place?
Yes. One of the annoying things for the entire general public has been this healthcare package for commissioners. And I'd seriously, now that we've got a board working together to address the one remaining commissioner, bring the entire board into parity. I'd like to find out if there's open enrollment possible, if this person can immediately join one of the other open enrollment programs. I'd like the healthcare policy for the entire board to be uniform. I'd like parity among all 5 commissioners. And I'd like the public to see that the new board was able to take action on this and reach agreement. So I'd like to see the healthcare benefits parity for the entire board considered as soon as possible or before the next open enrollment period.
Do you want to have that on the next agenda or in the next couple of agendas, or does the staff have a
I think until I hear how many items there are, it's hard to,
Okay.
I need to get them and then I can start working at what the agenda volume is.
How quick he can get it onto the agenda?
Because we have a lot of items for our next agenda that are just regular business.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to get back to us. Okay. Anything else? Any other items?
Oh, sorry.
There was a motion, I think there was a motion
Oh.
to place something on the agenda, but there was no second or vote on
Oh,
the motion.
okay.
I
So,
believe that Acting General Manager Grindy was going to get back to us on exactly how fast we could get that on.
so should we go ahead and make the motion to place it, but
On the
with that?
future agenda.
Yeah, okay. So,
I'd like to my motion is healthcare benefits parity for the entire board and to act upon this before the next open enrollment.
and I'll second. Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David? Aye. Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay. Any other items for future agenda?
I want to quickly just come back to the public comment and the beach nourishment issue, and I think I would like to move forward with the committee work on that and get definitely started on that. So I'm not placing anything regarding that on the next agenda, but I would like to have maybe just an informational report on or update on Romeo Pier. I have to say that I'm very concerned about upcoming storms and whether or not the pier is still going to be standing after that. So I'm very concerned about damage to the pier in a storm that would cause hazards for the harbor, and maybe just check into any emergency preparedness we can do for that in terms of maybe determining areas that are highly critical right now along the pier and securing that somehow, or what our options are to prepare ourselves for a bigger storm and avoid Romeo Pier falling into the harbor and causing damage.
So are you making a motion to have that put on a future agenda?
Yes.
Sounds like an informational report.
Yeah, but do I have to make a motion for an okay.
I'll
Do-
second that.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? President Brennan?
Aye. Any others? Okay. I've got a couple things here, with flexibility about the date, because I understand we have a lot coming. So I've got three things. I'll start with the first. I would like a PowerPoint presentation, or some sort of presentation, and if I need to help create it, I'm willing to do that, on the fish buying fee audit conducted by JJA CPA. And actually, now that I think about it, that could be combined with a presentation also on the Dornbush consulting firm fish buying fee report, which was recently released to the public. Both reports, well, actually, Dornbush is public. I'm not sure, is the audit public yet?
I have 2 letters and 1 coming,
Okay.
so then it would be public.
Oh, okay. So it's,
I had a phone call this number.
okay, so it seems like we could roll both those things together into one presentation to the board, just to give the board an update and so that the public's aware of where that stands. So I make a motion to have a presentation at a future meeting regarding the fish buying fee audit conducted by JJA CPA Incorporated and the Dornbush consulting firm fish buying fee report. Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carvana? President Brennan?
Aye. Okay, and the last thing I have is a PowerPoint presentation on the Pillar Point Harbor, Oyster Point Marina facilities reports produced by Moffett and Nichols.
Sorry,
Those were recently released.
facility condition survey.
Okay, thank you. Facilities condition survey. And if anyone hasn't had a chance to look at them, they are fascinating, really interesting stuff. So, and again, the date's flexible depending on how the staff can fit it in. So I make a motion that we have this presentation on both Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor on the facilities condition survey. Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Bernardo?
Aye.
Commissioner David?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Carvana? President Brennan?
Aye. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. The next meeting will be January 21st at 6:30 p.m. in South San Francisco.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh my God.